Good afternoon, Dr. Stevens. My name is Sergio Tapia, and this is my oral presentation for behavioral neuroscience for the class Senior Seminar in Psychology. Now, why did I choose these two careers? And the two careers that I have chosen are to become a researcher slash neuroscientist or a neurosurgeon. I've always had a personal connection to the field of neuroscience, more specifically neurosurgery, as on both sides of my family, my father's and my mother's, there have been complications and events that have occurred that have shaped me on a fundamental level involving neuroscience. On my father's side, I would not have my grandfather to this day had he not been saved by a neurosurgeon. He had fallen and broken his back when I was maybe around 8 years old, and he would not be walking today, or he might not even be alive today, had there not been a extremely excellent neurosurgeon on call to be able to assist and repair his spine. And as for my mother's side, they have dealt with an increasing rate of neurodegenerative diseases that current research aims to eliminate, or um, at the very least, help solve or better the circumstances of their diseases. Now, for a more professional view on why I've chosen these two career paths, it is because in both of them, I will be remaining and I will remain and be deeply rooted within an extremely diverse and global interconnected field. On the researcher and neuroscientist path, there is an extremely extensive list of topics that I can choose to delve into. The field of neuroscience is extremely interconnected with branches in things like sociology to banking and, of course, your standard medical research. For the neurosurgeon career choice, I will still remain extremely interconnected. However, one thing that I'm sacrificing when compared to the neuroscientist field is the scale of my impact as a professional. If I were to become a neuroscientist, I would have impacted the world. Granted, it may be over a long period of time, or it may be over a country to country basis, depending on the results or depending on the projects that I do. However, as a neurosurgeon, I would be almost trading that global impact and long lasting or long reaching impact for a more short term yet personable and personal impact. If I were to become a researcher, I would be having results that would take maybe decades to achieve. However, if I were to become a neurosurgeon, I would have results maybe the day that I started, the day that I became a neurosurgeon. I could impact someone's life the same way these two fields have impacted my life. Now, the educational tracks for these two professions remain largely the same in that you will be taking STEM-focused courses during your primary schooling, so think K through 12. This is followed up by a bachelor's degree that would be helpful for the field. In the case of research or neuroscientists, it would be a bachelor's degree in a neuroscience related field. For example, the degree path that I have chosen is for a bachelor's in behavioral neuroscience. However, if I were to be more inclined onto the medical field, I would have chosen potentially a bachelor's in biology. Afterwards, there are three degree paths that you can choose. You can go directly into a master's program to get your master's degree and further specialize, and then go into a PhD program, or you can go directly into a PhD program following your bachelor graduation. The third option would be to take time, such as a gap year, in between your bachelor's program and your graduate schooling to work within research, such as post-bac programs, or to apply as an entry-level research position. In the case of medical school, it remains much the same. However, your gap year, instead of working, could potentially be filled with studying for the MCAT or applying for part-time hospital positions to familiarize yourself and gain connections that could be useful in applying for medical schools. Your medical schooling will be a internship and general schooling, followed by a specialized residency. In this case, it would be in neurosurgery, into a potential fellowship. This step is not necessarily required. However, it is extremely useful in developing your skills as a professional. The final and penultimate step in becoming a neurosurgeon would be to become both board certified and state licensed in the state you wish to practice, such as in Florida. There are many more skills that are needed or would be required or helpful. However, the main ones would be experience for both of these fields. These experiences can come from events such as post-baccalaureate programs, research assistant programs slash positions, or internships. And as for the medical side, it would be mainly hospital work such as ER work or working in an ambulance crew. Bar none, you need to develop your skills and you need to gain more experience to pursue those higher positions when compared to those entry-level positions. I have chosen these three schools as my top choices as they all contain both good research programs as well as mentors that deal in topics that I personally am extremely interested in. The first one that I have chosen, and it is my number one pick, is the University of Florida, and the program that I wish to apply to is the Gatorade program. As you can tell by the name, it is sponsored by the company Gatorade, and it is a extremely vastly interconnected network of labs within the University of Florida that have a wide array of topics that you can choose from, as well as different mentors that can assist you in choosing a project once you apply. The specific mentor that I would like is a Dr. Michelle Bendenba for her work in stress and behavior in the brain. As for the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, this is my second school that I have applied to or wish to apply to, rather, and it is for their Research Scholars Program. Like the University of Florida and their Gatorade program, this is also extremely interconnected and has a wide variety of topics that extend outside of traditional neuroscience research. The mentor specifically that I would like is Dr. John Gabrielli for his work in imaging and reward circuits within autism patients. The third school within my top three is Washington University in St. Louis, and this is for their NeuroPrep program. Unlike the previous two schools, this specific research program focuses solely on neuroscience research within their network of labs. They can afford to do so as almost all of their research is funded privately with subsidies from the government. Dr. Megan Creed and her work on synaptic plasticity and its role in disease I find extremely interesting and would love to work with her. Now, as for why I chose UF on the financial side, UF and their Gatorade stipend and their Gatorade program offers a $30,000 yearly stipend for the 2 years that the program is offered, as well as covering the cost of the neuroscience online certificate. Now, there is certain liabilities that I would need to incur upon going to UF or upon being accepted into UF. And that is that I would need to move from Miramar to Gainesville and find appropriate housing inside of Gainesville. This is not as difficult as a task as I am making it out to be. However, with the current cost of living, this is a somewhat difficult task that I do need to think about. On to the more social side, I will be remaining within the state, so my family and my support network remain within a day's drive. Currently, I believe it is a 4.5 hour drive from the University of Florida to the Miramar area. As I will be remaining in state, I do not need to jump through any hurdles to contact them via phone if I need to. There is no need for international calling as they are still within the same state. I also have one or two friends within the Gainesville area that are going to the University of Florida. However, as it comes with any demanding position, specifically within an all-new city, I believe it will be difficult to make meaningful connections as I may be too busy from working within that research program to adequately keep up with relationships. For the communal aspect of why I chose UF, it is still within Florida, so there is still a rather large Hispanic population, and I believe that there is a similar stance on esports or gaming culture within the University of Florida. However, outside of the campus area and maybe the surrounding couple miles, there's not that many young people, and there's a rather large emphasis on sports that I do not necessarily share. There's also not many activities to be done outside of the campus area that do not involve nightlife or clubbing in some way. As for the preparation that I have done, I have communicated with numerous professors within my degree program, so the behavioral neuroscience program here at FIU, and I have received numerous positive responses regarding my letters of recommendation, and those are already on track. I have also expressed interest and reached out to numerous labs for research assistant positions, both in the surrounding FIU area and Miami, the greater Miami area, as well as outside of the state. However, the outside of state programs and positions I do not consider as heavily as I do the in-state programs. I have also reached out to certain PIs or primary investigators directly for their input on whether or not I may be a good fit for their lab. I've reached out to hospitals for open positions to potentially bolster my resume and CV by working part-time or full-time in their hospitals. However, this does come at a cost. I will need to constantly recertify and re-examine myself for the licenses which I am now licensed. It would be I would need to re-examine and recertify in a CNA, EKG, and EMR position, as well as maintaining my basic life support. I also will need to have updated my CV and resume to match my current skills to show employers that I would be a good fit. Now, as for my conclusion, I do believe that this class has helped me feel better prepared for the process of applying to a graduate program or to apply to an actual job. It has made me feel more at ease and eased my anxiety when it comes to this process. I've learned that I do have a large gap, a rather large gap, in my resume skills, and I do require additional experience that certain programs are requiring or have listed as a necessity. A topic that I believe should be discussed more, and I'm glad that was brought up in this class, are feelings of impersonality or almost like an imposter syndrome, where your identity is almost seen as either the most important thing, and if you do not fit it, well, that's tough, or it's too bad, or you may feel as you are being homogenized into a group that you may not necessarily want to be homogenized into, or you may feel that you do not know how to properly express or develop your identity. And those are topics that I believe should be spoken about more.